Hello, and welcome to the good stuff, the big episode 61.
We made it. We're back.
We made it to 61. It's the milestone that everybody's trying to get to.
They're trying to get to
we
that
got
one.
there.
In the interest of holding on to our audience more than a few minutes, we're going to talk about loops, and maybe we'll explore the latest Mythos release, which has got a different name because it's public friendly.
Yeah, it's Fable and Mythos. I mean, they just sound made up, right? Like, it doesn't help, but we'll get into that. There's also Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple yesterday. They were showing off some local LLM stuff. Maybe we'll touch on that if we get a moment.
There you go.
But these are all on theme and on brand.
Yeah.
So, all right, loops.
Let's try that. Loops.
Loop engineering, vibe looping, loop AI. I don't know exactly where the term lands yet, but it's the big thing.
What? Okay, so let's start with the tweets.
Yeah.
So there was Boris, who was the creator of Claude Code,
Yeah.
right? What did he say? I can't remember his exact words.
It was he basically said, I don't prompt
anymore.
I design. I just build loops that prompt for me.
Yeah.
And that does the work.
And then Steinberger came out and said something roughly similar.
Yeah.
And then those tweets have kind of captured the Twitter zeitgeist this week.
They've discovered being a team leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. I could manage a team.
What
That's
is
what it feels like.
what is a loop? It's like, break it down. Like definitionally, what is actually a loop?
I mean, like at a code level, you'd have like your while and for loops, which are things like just keep doing this thing while this is untrue, and then when it's true, stop.
Okay.
So, have you got an answer to this? Yes, no. If it's false, keep going. If it's true, you're done. Like that'd be one. And you just iterate on the same code over and over again. You just keep putting the same thing in. A for loop would just say like, okay, just 10 times, just do this operation over and over again. And maybe you drop in like a different thing into the loop each time.
Yeah.
So you'd use that for like, let's say you've got like a big list of stuff that you want to check. You'd say like, for the length of the list of this stuff, take the first thing from the list or the second thing or whatever number, and then apply this logic to it. So you just do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So that would be a loop traditionally. I think what they're talking about
seems more goal oriented, right? Like, here's the goal.
Well, I mean,
we want
they
to build
are
something.
goals, right? Let's say it's a
No,
code
of course.
thing,
but like it's maybe less defined when I see some of the applications people are using here. It's like you basically have like a set of parameters and the agent just keeps working until it determines an endpoint.
So that would be a while loop.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like it's in the code you would describe it like that. I think what they're doing is you bring it up a notch and you say, well, now if I can put the agent in a loop, what I would say is that, like, okay, here's a goal is a while loop. It's like you say a goal is currently false. Here's how you evaluate it's true. Keep going until it's true. Like, I mean, the other ways that people seem to use. So I think a lot of it is those sort of like what you're doing is defining like business rules for your agent. This is why I said it's like my throwaway comment was, oh, they've discovered like being a manager, which is like in general like the job of a manager, like, I mean, there's multiple things, but one of the main things, like if you're designing a company or you're designing a team or a system or a set of processes, it's really about trying to figure out what are these operating rules and processes that we're going to use to get to an outcome, not necessarily doing the job. So like any like methodology design or anything like that is always about saying, okay, well, what are the sort of loops and processes that I'm going to sit in that should lead me towards that outcome that I don't know yet? And so I think it's really like it's discovering that instead of coding, maybe we should be thinking about coding methodologies. It's kind of like where they seem to be at, which is that like, yeah, I will loop on this. So I'll have like a loop, which is a scheduled loop, like say in OpenClaw. I mean, it's not a surprise because a lot of like OpenClaw stuff is loops of jobs. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and look for changes. And then based on a change, I'll react. So one loop is just looking for changes, monitoring things. So it could be that like I'm just going to look for issues on this GitHub. And then if I see an issue, then I'll process this job. That would be one loop that you might have an agent sat in. And then another agent, the agent that then processes the job, it might even go through several loops itself. It just says like, okay, here's the goal of the job that needs to be correct. I'm going to loop until that's now correct. And that's a different loop that runs, and then there's another loop that's running that's looking at like pull requests that just says, like, I'm kind of framing this in software terms, is because I think these are coding guys, right? I think this is where they're coming from initially. But they're kind of looking at that and saying like, okay, well, once I get an output here, that is what we'd call a pull request, I will loop on that. And then as I see one, then I kick off another job, and then that might be a loop in itself. And so you can see what they're really doing is a kind of organizational design for a team of coders, where the team is really a bunch of agents. But I sort of looked at it and thought, oh, this is kind of, it's very interesting, because you would think that if we moved everything into automation, like it would be different to how humans work. But again, we seem to be speed running, realizing that all of the like organizational and management like infrastructure we've developed over the last 1,000 years was useful. Like it's there for a reason. Like we've not arrived there accidentally, and we're now just reinventing it for agents with new names. Like I was poking fun at some people in Australia about their business intelligence layer. It's like it's just writing shit down. Like it's just you know, like my moleskin is like my like live up-to-date state of the business sort of thing.
Business intelligence layer is something. It sounds like it's something Claude would have.
It sounds new,
said.
right? Like that's the thing. It sounds sexy to have a business intelligence layer.
Yeah.
But for 20 years, like I had people like, there's always a project in every business that was, I think we should just have one big database of everything in it.
Yeah.
And it would go backwards and forwards between, is it one big database, or is it multiple databases with like a way of accessing the data? And like a lot of, like when you hear people talking about building their business intelligence layer, it's just like, yeah, it's just that you can now have databases for you. And it just would have been a bit too much effort previously to do that. So now you're doing it. But yeah, writing stuff down. It's not like, but it's presented as this like new paradigm of like everything's now shifted. Now we've got business intelligence layers. And it's like, no, you're just using databases now. It's fine.
Yeah.
It is like a progression of where we were with new hype marketing terms. And I feel like similarly with loops, it's like, oh fuck, it's all agent loops now. I've got an agent loop and it runs my business. It's like, no, you've got a business. It's what you're talking about. Like to me, it feels like and not to sound like a dick, which, you know, obviously I don't avoid too often. But like I feel like we've been talking about this for months, and it's starting to catch up, this was always what you were supposed to do, is you design the business and you have a set of business rules, and the agents kind of fit in and do stuff inside that. And you can call it loops. It's not, the trouble with loops is it makes it sound like everything is a loop. Really, it's just triggers, processes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that framing. I'm just not sure if that was the intended framing, because it seemed to capture a lot of people from like every different discipline possible. And I think the way he framed it, at least Steinberger framed it as in like, you shouldn't be, it's basically the death of prompt engineering, right? It's like you shouldn't be prompting your agents should be prompting your agents, and that's kind of the purpose of the loop. And it's like, okay, where does the human sit in all of this? Where does the judgment get applied? And you know, like for some of the things, like for the examples you gave, I think those are very valid use cases for loops, if that's the term we're going for right now.
It's not, because it's hype.
But it's like, that makes sense. But it's like, okay, let's say we're working on something that's a little bit more, I don't know, design led. Do you want to just hand that over to like your agents? I mean, you have to obviously define this, but where do you want to like go and actually inject yourself as the human? Is that really appropriate for a loop? To some degree, you might be able to go, well, at least build 80% of this, and then let me come back to it. But like we've discussed this in the past, it's like often once you have first contact with something you've started building, the scope shifts, and you're like, actually, like let's go off in a different direction. Let's do this thing over here.
I think this is partly why they landed on loops, like for their languages, because it is so highly iterative. Like what's interesting about most things when you introduce agents is they move quick enough that you can actually just put more iterations in. And so you end up in a kind of like loopy style of process, because your process like duration becomes shorter, and then your cycles, like your n of cycles, goes way up. So you are so it does feel loopy, which I think is part of it.
That's one way.
That could be a good name for an agent harness, loopy. So you'd have that. Where was I going? Yeah, and so for something like design, like where do you put the human? I think one of the things that they explicitly say, like, we put the human in as in that you're designing the loops. They're not really talking about how the human steers or adds additional input or taste into that process. I imagine they do, like having heard, I don't know the Boris guy particularly well. I've listened to quite a lot of Steinberger stuff, just because I actually quite like his philosophy on a lot of things. But I think his view seems to be that the agent loop is more about the way it works, sort of thing, and how it cranks out a ton of work. And then his job is that of like setting up those loops up front, which you can kind of see in a lot of how he develops OpenClaw. But then also like the way he talks about his coding workflow, like he then gets the output of that and reviews it like regularly inside those loops. So I think he does like loop it back to himself.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would apply a similar thing to design, which is that I think in general you want to get out of the way of the agents, because you just, it's hard to like stay in the same like timeline as them. Sometimes you have to, but like it's hard. Like it's not a comfortable spot to be in. You end up losing yourself a little bit, and you can't focus on anything else just because it's changing so quick. And so you kind of want to have these like touch points that you can check in on, and then you let it run its loop or process for a while there. I mean, it's what I would call like the pipeline. My pipelines have loops, if you know what I mean. Like it's, but you let it run its thing, and then you check its output, and then you steer again, and it loops, and then you steer again, and it loops, and then even that itself is kind of a, it's a repetitive methodology. It's a cycle, so it fits the loop terminology. But similarly, design, I think it's a lot of it is just like, all right, well, give me 20 examples. All right, these are the 3 that I like, and I like this from that and that from that. So rebuild those, and then that becomes another loop. So I can see, I think maybe it's just unsaid in those tweets that you certainly do need humans inside that space currently. Like it worries me when I see people running stuff that will just go for like a day and build something entirely from scratch. And I'm like, you just know that all of these moments where decisions had to be made, you don't know what you got. You don't know if it's good.
I kind of do wonder as well about where you've got essentially like a decision tree or like a judgment point where an agent has to decide, do I keep going in a certain direction? Do I go off in a different direction? Like, am I doing what I'm being asked to do here? Is this still aligned to the goal, or have I like wandered? Like, I kind of liken those to coin flips. And I kind of think if you can like toss a coin 10 times and get heads 9 times out of 10, you're probably fine. You'll probably end up in the right place. But if all of a sudden you've now got like 50 sub-agents as part of that loop that just get like, brought into this, and then each one of those has to make a judgment call at some point. That's another coin toss. So now you've gone from like 10 of them to like 500 of them. And so your likelihood of like getting heads 9 times out of 10 has just like, been obliterated. Like, you just statistically, it's not going to happen. These things are going to wander off the reservation somewhere, and it's just going to break something, and it's just going to end up in a bad place. I think this is where like we've kind of like tightly defined these like, certainly in pipelines, we kind of have like a greater number of smaller pipelines that run. That seems to make more sense in my mind, rather than just these like open-ended experiments. And I would then bring that back to like the cost or the economics component, because I don't know who's running this economically other than guys like Steinberger and like, guys.
Well, he doesn't run it economically.
He does. OpenAI pays his bills, right? Exactly, so it's like at that point, it doesn't really matter what you're building and what you're spending, because the bill's taken care of for you. But if you're a business, you're like, well, with that many coin tosses, I'm introducing risk, which is the thing that every business optimizes like to avoid or to mitigate. And I could just be spending like way more money than just having a couple of humans sat on a desk.
So I think there's a couple of things here that come up for me. Is I don't think this is an entirely new thing. And again, I think we've previously solved this. And like, so I used to manage like large teams of people, and I would always make just a big thing about like values and principles, which is like, well, vision, values, and principles is like, where are we going? Like, why are we acting in a particular way? And then a set of principles that say like, this is how we're going to make decisions. And the point of that was always that, like, look, we're going to go like, this is like a 3-year project. Like, we're going to go all the way over there. We don't know where it is yet. So here's roughly what it looks like. And this is like why we're doing it and like what's important. right? And then here's your guiding principles. It's like every decision you need to be thinking about these. And it was the point was that even as a human, you will make like 100 to 1,000 decisions a day. And like, if you ask me on every one of them, we'll get where I want to go, but you can't because there's 50 of you, sort of thing. So that's not going to work. So we need a scaled way of doing it, which is that we write down like how we make our decisions, and then we sort of go over there. And then when you make these decisions, and this is the second thing that comes to mind, is that like you can't make the right decision necessarily, because there isn't a right decision. You're just at like a fork, and it's not a fork of 2, it's a fork of 1,000.
Yeah.
And like, maybe one of them is optimal, maybe not, maybe some are better than others. Like, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
But like, they do compound. And the important thing is not necessarily that you get every turning correct and every fork correct. It's that you're generally correcting back towards that right vision, and you're applying the right choices to which fork you take. So the principles like limit the number of forks that you've got, and then the vision tells you how to steer towards that correct sort of place. And so the thing that like then I say like kind of worries me when people like let these things run with no human interference for so long is that I just don't think, maybe one day this changes, or maybe we need to get much better at articulating like where we're going. But I think in general, like, your AI does not have the same intuition for where you're going that you do. And so if you sit with it and pay attention, it steers in the right direction. When you don't, it doesn't. And it's not because it's made the wrong choice necessarily. It's just like making constant suboptimal forks.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you get this drift. As I say, the thing is, I feel like we have solved this previously. I also think it's like, it's one of these things that I say solved, we mitigate it like that. We don't solve it. I think it's probably unsolvable. And going back to like last week's conversation with Deadman, please, like and subscribe and share the pod with your friends. Is
leave us a comment.
Leave a comment. Like, what do you think? It's been an alien invasion. What do you think?
Yeah.
Have you been invaded? You remember that sketch from Mitchell and Webb? It was about, this is probably like 20 years ago now.
It rings a bell, yeah.
It's like they have, this is like the end of the world, and there's a big alien invasion, and they say, hey, you've been affected by the alien invasion? What do you think? Write in and tell us at BBC. It's like, first one is like, you say what you want about these aliens, but they sure know how to stage an invasion. It's like, just so British. Anyway, so like, I think you can't make these decisions. It's mitigated somewhat using that sort of framework. But I think the core problem is that like, you can't articulate where all of this stuff out of your head without sort of being in your head. It's like almost encoded in you.
Yeah.
And getting it out is the process of actually creating the thing.
Yeah.
But if you've already created the thing, like, that's not a spec. You've created the thing. So you just go create the thing and steer it and be involved.
Yeah.
And it's certainly like the way I've found myself gravitating back to is that like, as many of these like loops, pipelines, workflows, or whatever I put in, like, it can't be hands off. There has to be, I feel like it doesn't work unless I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
Now what I'm paying attention to is all over the map. Like, it's not one thing. It's not like I just need to be very good at writing this spec. It's like sometimes I need to watch it. Sometimes I need to like write a better upfront spec. Sometimes I just need to spend a bit of time on like this bit of a data model, and then it can go. And then like it changes a lot. The things that are always there is I need to be using and testing these things over and over again. So I think this is where I really like using these tools to build stuff for yourself, and then actively like using the thing as it, like, you have it update as you're using it like live, and you instantly see stuff that goes wrong, and then it instantly gets fixed, and that seems to work really, really well.
It's the classic management problem that creeps in there, like even with humans. It's like all of a sudden, if you've got too many of these loops running, for want of a better term, let's just land on loops. If you've got too many of them running concurrently, trying to stay across them is going to be complex. And I think that's also going to factor into the drift as well. It's like easier for these things to drift if you're not actually engaging with these at like regular intervals, or at least, predetermined points, which you would do if you had a team of people working for you. You'd be checking in with like a bunch of people that you have in a team. you wouldn't necessarily be sat there watching them work, because that would be a waste of your time.
Yeah.
But you would have these like regular like touch points. You'd go and see how they're doing and where they need help and what do they need to surface to the rest of the team and like what can I help with, and that's what we've done forever. That kind of works. But again, it's like if you then put too much on that team, you also have to manage too much, and that becomes a problem as well. I think the way I've kind of framed this has been like, it's like that this adage of like not wanting to pay for the same real estate twice. It's like if I have to do this work again next week or next month, do I want to have to do it again the same way and spend the same amount of time, or can I just do it once, potentially spend a little bit more time on it, but have a system in place so it can just run in future? And that to me seems like better framing for most businesses, because like a lot of this stuff is already predefined. It's just that people are pushing this work through. And so I then need to pick up the same kind of work again next week, and then the following week and the following week. And that's just, I'm in that loop personally.
Yeah, and there's a spectrum there, right? Of like some stuff is like, you should never do it twice. Like some stuff you might do it like 10 times over like a few months and then go, you know what, that was quite a lot.
Yeah.
But like the second time you wouldn't have thought to do that because it's just not quite regular enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, like,
then,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Then it's like I think the regularity is actually important, because I think that feeds into the economics. Like if it's semi-regular, but it's like, I don't know, a half hour of your human time. Yeah. Why would you waste the time automated? Like, I don't think you get a return on that. I don't think you get a return on it, like, even after 3 years. If anything, I actually think it probably robs you of time.
Yeah.
So I think those decisions are important as well. But again, I don't think this is how those guys are thinking about this. I think it's just easy to go, prompt engineering is dead. Your agents should just be prompted by other agents. And that plays really nice and gets everyone talking about it.
There's a big thing in software engineering in general, I would say, around software engineers not necessarily solving the problem that needs to be solved, but like, say, spending a long time like setting up their computer, or like productivity people that spend like like at least a week, a month reinventing their entire productivity system. Yeah, which is, as you can imagine, not the most productive thing. Right? I end back in my moleskin and a list that I force myself to rewrite every day. There's a lot of stuff like that, and usually it's because you're somewhat avoiding contact with the real world. Yeah. And I think it'd probably be hard to say that Claude Code is avoiding contact with the real world, but they're certainly like constantly do stuff that works and then fuck it up like 5 minutes later. Like it's not like the real world seems to have like a massive impact on their trajectory and roadmap. They're just sort of YOLOing stuff out into the world and A/B testing it. Maybe they do correct a little bit that way, but like it's just like quite common for developers to spend all of their time just developing the thing that gives them the reward. Yeah, and often for a lot of them, it's like they really like getting computers to do fun stuff. Yeah, and so you can sort of see in loop engineering, if that's what we'll call it for now, that is a very like insular, internal focused way of saying like, how can I just get this like AI to do a lot of stuff that seems cool and might be useful without answering the question like, is it useful?
Should we?
Yeah, should we? It's like, can we, not should we? Yeah. Different questions, very different questions. Yeah. Can we do that? Yeah. It's like, can we do all this crime? Yeah. Should we do all this crime? Yeah. Like, there's consequences to all this stuff. There's trade-offs. And like, you know, the stuff you're doing, it limits the stuff that you could have done. So there's very real things that go on there. So yeah, I just feel like it's very much an exercise in going like, look at all this stuff we can do, and we've yet to find out that it's useful. Yeah. And like, you would have said the same, and it's not to say that we won't find out that it's useful. Yeah, because you could have said the same. Like, a lot of AI industry has been this. It's like, we can create videos, but it doesn't lead to anything that people actually want. Yeah. You know, like, can we create a lot of slop on the internet? Yes, we can. People don't want it. Does it mean people won't? Well, no, it doesn't. People will throw money at stuff. But then it takes a while for people to realize that doesn't actually pay off. because it feels like it should pay off. And like this to me feels like one of those areas where it's like it feels like it should pay off. If I can just automate the whole thing, and I could, it intuitively feels right to go. If I had 1 million engineers that just work and correct each other, it feels like it should work.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean it will. And like I think when you hear a lot of like, so I was listening to Toby from Shopify talk the other day. He was talking about like. So they arrived at their ideal team size for Shopify being 5 people. And he said, and it could have been 50 people, could have been 20 people. Like they weren't necessarily constrained on these things. He said generally the smaller the better. And then they designed all their buildings so you couldn't get more than like 7 people in a space. So it kind of like forces them to be small teams, which I thought was kind of neat. But you look at something like that and you go, yeah, like it's. Just because you can have tons and tons and tons of people, like what's missing there is probably this coordination there. So there's maybe an inbuilt assumption here that agents don't have a coordination problem and a communication problem because they can just talk and read stuff quicker than we can. Maybe. It doesn't seem to play out, I don't think, in the way they work. Like if you give an agent 2 sets of information, it's not necessarily better.
Yeah.
These agents are like Goldilocks, right? They like the right porridge. If you give them 5 bowls of too hot and 5 bowls of too cold, you get crap response. If you give them the right porridge, you get the right response. The right porridge is a good name for an agent memory system.
Yeah.
It's porridge,
So,
we'll call it.
A couple of names
Or
coming out of this
Goldilocks.
one. Yeah.
Goldilocks. It's just the right context.
Wingman, take note.
Yeah.
That's good.
I call Wingman Rick these days.
Yeah,
he's
we've
been
both got
rebranded.
named.
Well, that's it. There's
Named
too many
agents.
things called Wingman, so I had to
Yeah. we've used that.
subname everything. It's like it's called, yeah. Anyway, so I
I think this is right. I also think that like if you're running a bit like I think businesses are just like essentially bundles of processes, and we've like mapped out as much of it. No, not small businesses, but like once you get to a certain scale and you've got multiple people running around doing different things, we tend to try and like codify how that stuff works because we think that makes things more efficient, or at least it helps us to like surface the artifacts and keep on top of the kind of reliability aspect and the consistency aspect and like and the like again the drift aspect. It's like, are we actually being productive here because we've got artifacts to kind of produce at the end of each of these like procedural runs that we do as a team? And if the answer is yes, then good, the business is functioning. If the answer is no, then like the process isn't really doing anything. And so that's great. Like you would think, okay, this like maps really nicely to a business. But again, like I think the issue is broadly about trust. In the same way that like you've got a group of people at work in your office and you broadly know what's going on because they're in the office. There's something like tangible and tactile about it when people are like around you.
Yep.
You don't really get with agents. Like I find it's just easy to let them go. Like I do this, like just let them go and wander off and do something else. Or I'll be juggling like 5 projects because I have this like latency when I'm waiting for responses, and I'm like, oh, I need to fill that time. Let me pull up a completely different project, which I think Deadman kind of touched on last week.
You've just reminded me of something, which is a great tweet that Primogen was going over the other day. She's a response. There's some hustle porn guy from an insurance company talking about working like 1 million hours a day or something.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was an AI response necessarily, but it was from like the guy that founded Linear, and he said that like you're just assuming that like more work is good.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing more work and then that's good, and you over output people. Like you got more lines of code, it's better code. Yeah. We've just done all of this stuff and all of this output. If this was true, like government would be the most productive thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's like they do nothing except hire teams and send them off on stuff.
Yeah.
It's like all big companies would be more productive than startups because they have more people and hours to throw at the thing. It has never been about the volume.
Yeah.
Like there's always been somebody else in the world that could execute at like tens of thousand times more volume than you. It was always about differentiation and taste and like specific useful output, and generally like niching down as well, right? Like doing like slightly less, just doing just the right thing for this area. instead of trying to capture the whole thing. And like when he put it in that government, I was like, yeah, this is true. Like the amount of in Australia we've got half of the country
in the public service
works for the public service. Like probably another 20% are contractors to them.
That's true. At least most of the consultants,
And then he's maybe even more.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, and we don't produce anything that's useful to the rest of the world except for iron ore.
We rip stuff out of the
and gas, which is it's got a limited lifespan at some point. You're not being productive necessarily if you're just selling off your old family silver.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you go, yeah, that's true. And so you can take that same analogy and throw it at AI and say, yeah, okay, now you can produce. Like, I actually had a conversation with someone the other day where they had quoted like a lines of code answer, and I was like, ooh, like I'm kind of, it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like it's, again, this has always been one of those things in software. It was like, it's very useful if you can write a lot of code quickly, like typing it through the keyboard, as long as it's correct. And so at one level, like someone outputting a lot of code is good, but it's also, you could output a lot of lines of code that are not required at all, and you can be very wasteful in how you execute the code. It's not really a correct metric. Like you feel like this is true now in the AI age of just like there's a lot of apps. Like this was another graph that I think Levels was sharing this one, Peter Levels, and it was like there's been like this massive exponential spike in the number of apps that are now out there in the world, and then the number of apps that get like starred and reviewed and shared as being useful is like almost like flatline going down. It's like there's just more stuff, but no one wants any of it. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of that stuff might be like, oh no, this is just for me. Like, I've launched tons of apps and I use all of them. Well, that's not true.
That was specifically through the App Store as well.
Yeah,
I did see that. And downloads were stagnant, but I think that also proves that like distribution is the age-old problem.
Yeah, I think that was his point.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like, I remember writing essays in school for exams. It was always like, we'd get told, you need to like write, or you need to fill the booklet basically. There's that much that you should be writing. So we'd basically like write until like, your hands were like, your joints were just like stiffening up just to get volume. And then you're like, those essays were all the worst essays I would have ever produced in my life, because there was no like care. You just had to regurgitate as much shit onto a page as you possibly could. And I always felt like the complete wrong proxy for like kind of judging whether someone actually understood what they were writing about, because it's like, we're going to time block this, it's going to be 2 or 3 hours, and you're going to write like 15 pages, and at the end of the day it's not going to be legible, because I'm, as an assessor, then going to read like 150 of these. They're all going to be like some minor variation of each other, and it's really just to verify that you can produce like rote learned information on a page. And it always felt like the wrong assessment. And I feel like similarly, just like pushing out volume without necessarily like generating an output is just pointless. It's like, again, how many of these guys that talk about this stuff actually have businesses that generate money? I think that's the thing. It's like,
often their business
that isn't content.
Shitting out content.
That isn't content. Yeah. It's like, is there something else that is like generating some kind of value? Well, are they making customers' lives better in some way, shape? Because to me, that's it.
There needs to be value produced for it to be useful work. Like this is the thing that the socialists, the thing, like one of the many things the socialists would get right, which would be like the Labour theory of value being, I put this amount of work into it, therefore it's worth this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, no, it's not, because if you logically follow that through, it's like to say, if I go and put in 10 times as much useless work into this, the value goes up, which is not true. The value is like defined by the person who buys it, not the person who sells it. Your job is to be able to produce it at a level that person will buy it at, or not. And if you can't, then like you probably need to rethink stuff.
Yeah.
So, like it's so there's it gets that point, right? Like, you can do all this work creating the thing, it has to be useful. Yeah. I mean, this is where I would think that, like, again, when you solve your own problems in your own business, it's like, well, this is like the problem I have in my business, therefore it's immediately useful. It may also be useful to somebody else.
I think
back of that.
I think there's also the kind of leverage element as well. If you're running a business, it's like, how much more leverage can I get from the same amount of investment, or even less investment? That's always the case. It's like, how big a lever can I get from the resources I have at my disposal?
And also, the work is seen as, like, in society in general, I think, maybe it's more of a Western thing, but I don't think so, would be that, like, it's kind of seen as a net good. If you know what I mean? If you're busy, if you're working, if you're trying, then that's a good thing, and you're adding value in some way. But work can be very destructive, right? You can destroy a lot of capital and a lot of value. I mean, like, again, government does a lot of work. They also destroy a lot of capital because they don't add anything to the pie. They just take. And then, you know, like, if you go and look at the high-speed 2 train in the UK, that's been a project for probably as long as I've been alive.
God.
And has spent, like, billions of pounds, hundreds of billions probably.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist. It's like, you've destroyed a lot of value. The work hasn't delivered anything.
Yeah.
And, like, by the time you get your fucking train that's going to do, like, a minuscule amount of what it was supposed to do in the first place, you wouldn't necessarily have funded it at that point. You've destroyed money and capital, and like, again, you've sold off, like, your family silver in order to buy something that you never would have, to buy a plastic plate and fork. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. So the stuff has to deliver value to be of value, which makes sense.
Yes. No, I
say it like that.
I think the labor or labor versus capital framing is, like, a nice one for AI as well, because it feels like AI should probably actually be, if it's being used well, it should be in that capital bucket. It's like, you're just deploying capital to get an output now. It's not necessarily you're deploying labor to do work, which is what you probably would get from a human. It's like the human is producing an output as a result of their labor, and then the market values it. But yeah, I think that, and that capital equation then becomes more valuable, especially as, like, the tokenomics of all of this kind of play out. Because, like, right now, I must say, like, when I first saw Steinberger's tweet, my gut reaction was, this is just token maxing, because that's what.
It's like, you guys should be spending more money.
But these guys spend so much money, but they always have someone else to foot the bill, and it's like, well, like, this just, the vested interest here is that you are just now pushing your own.
For what return as well?
Yeah, like, what are you getting out of it?
If you guys spend $1 million a month instead of $200, then you can actually get a 5% bump in performance. It's like, great.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
was like
it's unhinged.
There was a company that ended up, like, that had one employee who randomly, like, racked up like this massive, obscene token bill. I can't even remember who it was or how much it was, but I remember looking at it going, like, shit, like, that is.
I don't know how they don't have triggers and warnings.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think now, like, a lot of companies are implementing like employee limits, basically, like hard caps on spend. And it's like, okay, but is that the right way even to go about this? Like, I'm not sure, because then you're just looking at, like, your existing employees.
Maybe we'll reinvent the business case.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what I'm saying, like, we're just going, like, everything's changed, it's all changed. It's the same. It's the same stuff, guys. Sorry. It's just robots now. It's like when we have, like, robot meetings, and you're just like, guys, robots are going to have meetings. And some of them are going to say, that could have been a skill file. Something at the end of it, right? You know, like, but meetings are useful.
Yeah.
Just because you have shit meetings,
yeah, exactly,
and you don't prepare for them, doesn't mean meetings aren't useful. Like, the most useful thing in the world is getting a bunch of people into one space and, like, having this distributed cognition play out. Like, just stop having shit meetings. Like, that's fine. Like, in the same way that, like, stop just building stuff we don't need.
Yeah, well, the bot incentives and the human incentives are very different. Bots don't have any kind of, like, inbuilt desire for reward at the expense of the people they work with. So there's no internal politics that kind of, like, kick in. I think the biggest problem with meetings tends to be that's maybe that's, like, my biased experience from it, but it always felt like these were, like, blood sport, like, in the arena, or maybe that's the wrong expression, but it's like, because that means something else these days. It's like you're in the Colosseum, and it's like everyone has to have their say, and, like, you know, it's meaningless for the most part, but a bunch of people will lose their heads, and then you go off the rest of your day. It's like, okay, that could have literally not been a meeting. Like, that actually was a waste of everyone's time. But yeah, that doesn't negate the fact that meetings can be really valuable.
Yep.
But yeah, what was I going to say? I think this like actually goes into our next topic quite well, which is the Mythos, the public friendly version of Mythos, which is called Fable.
Fable. Yes,
yeah.
that's correct.
Because I actually think this is where the tokenomics like part is going to get pretty gnarly as well. Because I read this morning that is going to be it's going to be metered only access at some point pretty soon.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's on the subscription.
It's on the
I
subscription
used
for
it on
now,
that this morning, but
so everyone can give it a try.
it did tell me it was going to burn credits at twice the rate. I mean, like you kind of look at it and go, like, all right, so this is supposed to be the point of the subscription is supposed to be that it was all you could have, and that quickly became no, there's credits behind this, and we're rate limiting you. And it's like, well, then that's not what it is. It should just be an API. And you should be honest.
But
about
that's,
it, but like,
I think that's where it's all going.
just tell me it's a thing. Yeah.
In which case, you need to be, especially if you are a business and you're constrained and you're not Steinberger having your bills paid for you, that you need to be like very.
Do you think he's
deliberate
just been like OpenClaw was too popular and he's just been taken out and neutered?
Maybe.
And it was like all right, here's a like little cell that you can play in, and then we'll just
pacify you
not
with
have
a lot
that.
of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. You take that, wouldn't you? Maybe. I don't know. It's a
Oh,
pretty good deal.
I probably would, to be honest. If
It's
you
a very
offered
good
me,
deal.
Like, if he was going to retire me again. I guess he was already retired, and he was just playing
And
it
just
in
play.
a way. You could go play.
Yeah.
Shout out to the baddies. If we're becoming too subversive, then let us know.
You want to pacify us? You know,
It's just a couple of billies.
in a nice way, yeah.
And we'll
But also, like, pay the bills continuously so
Yeah.
we can keep experimenting,
Yeah.
please.
That
That would
would
be
be
the
fun.
caveat I'd make sure was wired into that agreement, for sure. But, yeah, I mean, maybe. But I think that's going to be, like, a bigger point of concern for, like, pretty much any normie, like, running a business anywhere. It's like, all of a sudden, you've lost now the dependency of, like, sorry, not the dependency, you've got a dependency, but you've lost, like, how dependable the $200 a month cost is. You do a lot with that. And now all of a sudden it's variable.
Yeah.
And you need to be very selective about like where you turn this resource now.
I mean, I also think that the cost is made up in many ways, right? Like it's the cost of the API is not the cost at all. Like I think they've got insane margins on this. And so like I don't think they're losing money on the inference at like the $200. It's probably just that there's some people that go completely off the deep end for that, and some people that don't.
I think you've got power users at every tier though, but I suspect they'd probably lose money on the 20 and then make it up in the 200.
And the free stuff,
as
well, particularly. Like,
I mean, no one's really doing it. I think the free stuff is really just like prompt and response, like glorified chat for the most part. You can't really get too much done.
but you also see it in the product as well, though. Like if they were really worried about this, you'd have a really efficient coding loop. You wouldn't sit there with like all of your code base just sat in memory and go, yeah, 1 million tokens is good. It's like, no, 1 million tokens context window is very expensive, which is fine if it's cheap. But if you're telling me it's too expensive now and you can't run it, well then you should really solve that problem. So interestingly, I was watching a video about this morning about Netflix release that they had called Headroom, which was cutting like 90-odd% of token costs out of harnesses like Claude Code. And effectively they were doing like caching. They were doing caching and like stripping of files that go in. So the idea is that you could call this Goldilocks as well. It's similar sort of thing, right? Is that when it goes and makes a tool call, like a lot of the tool calls will be read this file, read these logs. Like when you read a logs, the only logs that you want are the errors. You don't necessarily need the repeating line that just says like I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Sort of thing. But that sits in the context window. And so what they were doing is they had like a statistical model that could like strip a lot of the nonsense out of a lot of regular tool requests. And then they had like local models that you could run on your machine that would compress, they're trained specifically just to do compression of tool call concepts. And so it would like your reading the logs now becomes like 4 lines instead of 400,000 lines. And so all of a sudden your token cost would go through the floor when you're doing a lot of tool calling loops on these things. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And like I think you're only going to see a lot of stuff like that accelerate, which is going to make like there's no version of this that even if like the baddies win, that I don't think that we end up with like huge massive costs that spike out. I think if there's a few of them, they're going to fight amongst themselves and bring down those costs. And you'll see a lot of people that want to consume them are also pretty like like Netflix and no slouch in technology. So it's interesting to see stuff like this come out. I also think stuff like that could get a lot better in the open source model worlds again, because now you again, a lot of these things didn't have these massive context windows that weren't running on these major machines. So now all of a sudden you can then trim the context down. You get a much better answer.
Yeah, I think this ultimately, like, I think this is maybe a little bit hard to foresee, but I think some of the economic value. Well, it depends what percentage of the economic value created is emergent from frontier models, because the older models just commoditize really quickly, I think. And you've also got open source that catches up to these things. Even if they don't ever like achieve parity, they're still like gaining ground. And the question is, like, does it gain ground and close the gap, or does it just hold this like kind of 6-month gap? Doesn't really matter, I think, for most people. Like, if you look at a business today and you go, okay, the makeup of the work that we do is all relatively, I say all, but like relatively achievable with existing models today. Okay, that's fine. Well, that was the case a year ago. Then you've got the frontier model. I think the thing about the frontier model is like, what new thing does that enable for you? Again, like, what is the new, what new leverage does that give the organization? I think that is like the unknown question, because it's new.
And what does it give you versus just the slightly better harness?
Exactly.
Sort of thing, which,
and I think that still is going to commoditize quite quickly. So a year later, the token cost for that is probably going to be fairly cheap, and you're probably going to have a bunch of competition anyway amongst the model providers there, between open source and the big frontiers. So then I think that's like a more reasonable question, is like, what is the emergent capability going to look like for a business? What are the new things that you could be doing? And then do your costs actually fall once you've achieved that new thing? Because now you need to go and keep creating, or keep like capturing new territory every time the new model comes out. I don't know what that means for most businesses, but I think if you take the business as it exists today, I think this was the case a year ago, that most of the work could be done relatively effectively.
I think there's a few things going on. One is that we don't know, like, it doesn't feel like there's an agreement yet that we've hit a plateau of like more investment in the model is going to pay off or not. I think you could make an argument that it's not paying off in the same way, just because we're not getting these, like, we're not having a 2 to 3 and a 3 to 4 moment at the moment. We're having like, it feels progressive at the moment that we're getting better. And it is really hard to tell, like, what's the difference here between better tooling and better models that's coming out. Like, there's no massive step difference. And so I think they're gonna, and money is easy at the moment. And so we're piling more money into it, and the thing you do with the money is you go and train the bigger model, and we give it a crack and see how it goes. But we're not yet making like rational decisions to say, like, okay, do we train that model because we expect it's going to give us like a 50% productivity output on this thing over here, and therefore it's going to be worth it because we can do these new things that we can't do already, versus like, well, let's say we just keep this model and we make it more efficient, or if we keep the model the same, could we write like ASICs to run the inference versus GPUs, and therefore we, like, so if you look at something like Bitcoin mining, it was the fastest progression of like computing chip technology in the history of the world, largely because it was the same algorithm. It was, for mining, it's like one algorithm that you run, which is a SHA-256 hash, or double SHA-256 hash. And so you run, because you're running this same algorithm over and over again, people quickly realized they could run it on CPUs. And they went, oh, hang on a minute, I could parallelize this onto a GPU. Oh, hang on a minute, I could run this on like FPGAs. And like, oh, if I can run it on FPGAs, I could design like a literal chip. And then I could take the chip and I could go from like 20 nanometers down to 2 nanometers over the course of 10 years or whatever. And it was just like an insane amount of development. They're so efficient at doing what they need to do. There's like one thing that you could do with AI is just like almost pause the models here and say, look, we've kind of got like a generally useful amount of intelligence. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could reduce this to like millisecond response times and the energy usage goes down like 1000x? Like, we're not even playing in that space yet. which is interesting. Like we're still in the sort of like shitting money into the into the pool and just hoping that we get something out of it. Now I don't know whether that will be a who was saying this? I think it was Checkmate. I was listening to on the FTC this morning, and he mentioned something about like, look, is this going to be like bubbly and frothy? Like, of course it is. Like, this is just like the biggest thing in the world right now. When you get these like OpenAI and Anthropic IPOs, history kind of tells us that you don't generally get an IPO because all of the, like particularly at the moment, the way private investment works and we just keep things in-house forever, you're not getting it because it's such a good deal that we just want to make the public, give the public money and make them. It's like, no, you're
exit liquidity.
Your exit liquidity. You're going to be dumped on. And so we're going to have like these biggest IPOs in the history of humankind. Yeah. And they might get bought quite well because people will be really into it, but it feels like that's the bubble right there. And then we enter like whatever phase is next, which maybe is trying to actually optimize this. But you could imagine like a bit of a, like from your classic bubble chart, like you could have this like long valley of death where we climb back out to it and we will get to bigger highs in like 10 years or whatever. And you could I could see a lot of that being like we haven't done any of the work here. We just throw these things at stuff that seems to work, but we haven't done any of the like interesting engineering work about saying, well, can we actually make this thing efficient instead of making it bigger?
Well, the incentive's not there. For them to do it.
Because it's just, and I think it's because it is such a bubbly cash grab at the moment. Because otherwise you would go like, well, why, given like how much of a restriction energy is, like why are we not producing like specific like less energy hungry chips? It's like, I know when somebody like was throwing this at the, I think it was, maybe this is a Jensen point when they were talking about China. And they're saying like they don't have these chips, so it's impossible for them. And he's like the benefit of that chip is that it uses half the amount of energy, right? They've got 10 times the amount of energy. Like they don't need it. Like it doesn't do anything. Like it's just it just doesn't feel right at the moment. Like I don't feel like we're making
it's the benchmark
rational
argument.
Decisions, if you know what I mean. So it's like, well, it's hard to predict that it carries on. But I did like I thought it was interesting to hear James talk about that because I was like, that's a good point. This is probably pretty bubbly. We could be at the top of the bubble. Let's see. I mean, it's still useful as it is. So
of course it is.
If we stop making new models, I'm okay with that. If we made these models super fast, I could do more than if we keep trying to make slightly more intelligent models that cost more.
This was always like a financial problem more than a technology problem, though. I mean, like the internet did just fine after the dot-coms or during the dot-coms.
Eventually,
it's just the companies.
There was just a 10-year dip, though.
If you were invested in those companies, sure. The technology, people still use the technology.
Yes, yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? So I think in the same way.
But we destroyed a lot of capital
Exactly.
in Cisco, for instance, or
Totally.
I can't remember the name of the company that built out a lot of the dark fiber around the world and stuff like that. And it's like, was that good? Yes, like we've used all of it and we need more.
Yeah.
Did you make any money out of it? No, you went bankrupt
Exactly.
like many times over.
Yeah. But the technology's still like really useful. So I think that's like good framing. What's interesting though is like we keep getting these like rates of improvement in these models, which I think is probably flattening a little bit. But it still doesn't appear to me that like many companies are actually making the most of them.
I don't know if they're useful. Like that's
the question. Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
Like so, going back to is it useful? Can you do it? It's like there's this quest to have PhD level intelligence, isn't it? As if like PhDs do anything fucking useful in the world. Like most of them don't. Maybe a small smattering of them. Maybe they are more gathered in Silicon Valley inside big tech companies and that are the useful PhDs. Sorry,
I don't know.
Whoever that's listening. But like you're not trying to replace like absolute intelligent gods to like run a roster or to give somebody a phone call. You know, like good convincing phone calls. Like ostensibly the tech is there in like 3.5. It could talk. Can't talk fast enough. Like, that's a speed and like good phone call quality with these things is a speed and like speed energy processing problem and memory.
Yeah.
And like they're not getting addressed. They start better models. Like all the better models are slower, seemingly. I mean, this is why you have them in loops, so then they can run themselves, because you can't just sit there and prod them one at a time, because every prod now takes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, not every prod takes. I mean, I do a bunch that take a long time. And so you have to design a system to keep it going so that you don't have to sit there. Whereas, you know, in 3.5, you would never, in many ways, you don't think to build the loop, because you're like, no, I said the thing and it gave me the thing. It started typing back. Look, it's there. Like, what, I'm not doing anything else. I'm here. Like, I'm in the moment. I'm present. Like, me and my buddy. Like, we're having a chat. But, so it feels like it's just got slower and ostensibly more intelligent. But again, like, I find it hard to pass apart. Like, is it really more intelligent, or is it just taking more time?
Yeah. And then it depends.
Which I would be more intelligent if you give me more time.
Yeah,
like, it makes sense, right?
But it's also, where do you direct that intelligence? Like, is the thing you're doing going to require all of that additional thought and all of the additional tokens? And I'd say 9 times out of 10 probably
I think a lot of it is intellectual masturbation. Like, back to what we were talking about with like, it's could versus should. It's like, I don't know. I always feel a bit like disingenuous when I'm shitting on some of these terms. You know, like intelligence layer, because like I have built a bunch of custom tooling to be an intelligence layer for business to work with stuff, but it's like they are kind of useful, but a lot of the hype and stuff is lost in the nuance. Like, these tools are amazing, and I work very differently, but I don't need more intelligence. I need better application to the problem currently.
Yeah. That was always the case though, right? I mean, otherwise
it's always been the case of everything, right? It's like you just need, I mean, we've just done like a big, as I talked to you about before, like a rewrite of one of my systems. I was like, I've made this too complicated for myself. And part of that was intellectual masturbation of like, I wonder if you could do this. I wonder if like this sort of system could run this sort of application. It's like, it can. It doesn't need to. And I could do it a different way that is simpler and quicker, so I should do that. It's like when there's a guy, JB55, who I quite like on Nostr, Will. He was like he did the Damus app, like it was one of the big ones early on. And that was like the app for Nostr that everybody was on the whole time. Got like a bunch of funding to sort it out and work with it. And then he kind of like disappeared into like getting really obsessed with rebuilding like database component stuff to run really fast versions of relays so you can have a really good experience on his phone. And you're just like, this is just like you solving your very like specific engineering need more than applying this to the problem. And like, to go back to the company values, like, we're not here necessarily to fuck the spiders, so we should not fuck the spiders. But it is hard though. Like, I was, we were talking to a friend of the pod, Gav, yesterday. We was like talking about like around like pricing for wingman stuff, and it's like, it's hard to strike this balance of like, what's a price that's like you could do some of these things at that's low, it's almost like a no-brainer, versus investing and actually getting real value out of it. And I think for a lot of these tools, there's not a lot of value for the not really spending money on it. I think like there's a point of spending more money on it that it's really valuable. And it's like, it's not obvious to me how to close that gap, or like where to focus, or like what that product looks like. Like, what's the $50 a month product that's not just, I mean, like ChatGPT, Claude, it's like there. Kind of fit in that mold of like, look, it kind of does not quite
feels mad.
Anything that I want it to do. I don't have any control over it. And it's like, how do I get like the $50 version of like having control and over it? It's like, you don't. That's the neat thing. You don't. It's like, you've got to, it's like, well, we're trying to sell it like you should learn to drive. Like, yeah, this taxi is very cheap to use it, but on a one-time basis, but you won't have control in the same way that you can if you can drive your own car.
Yeah.
But driving your own car implies that you've bought a car and that you learned to drive.
Yeah.
So
there's an investment.
There's an investment there that needs to go into it.
But you also have the need
Yeah.
when you determine that you need to drive a car. It's like, I've got to get somewhere.
Yeah, and maybe that's because you use too many taxis. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
I had a bad experience on public transport.
Yeah.
Screw it. I'm going to drive. Oh, I need to buy a car. Oh, I need to learn how to drive this thing.
And then eventually, by the time we were like that age, it wasn't even a question. Like presumably, at some point in the 50s, or something, like people used to wonder whether they should buy a car.
I mean,
like, but for us, as we grew up, it was like, well, of course I'm going to learn to drive and have a car. It was like the most normal thing in the world.
Maybe it's maybe the narrative wasn't actually that we needed to get anywhere at all. Maybe it would just symbolized freedom.
That sounded so deep.
No, but it's true, right? I mean, like when I think about it, it's like I had to travel a long way to get to school and to get to uni. And to be honest, my parents were very motivated as well for me to get my license, so they didn't need to drive me around all over the place because it was a nightmare.
There's a lot of truth in it.
But at the same time, it also is like you get your license at that coming of age moment where you're also like, okay, the car is like the first bit of freedom that you get.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden now, like, there's no one that can rein you in because you've got the car. And I do wonder if that's like, that like, it comes back to agency, right?
I think that's
business.
exactly what cars are.
Yeah.
But and it's weird, and it is, because you hear people say this. That's how I felt when I got a car.
Yeah.
It's like it's one of these weird areas where it's been the social norm is to have like high agency.
Yeah.
And I feel like it does get shit on a bit these days.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
there's this like desire to say, oh no, everybody should have to be on public transport and waiting, and like it should be stood in a pool of piss or whatever. Like this. I mean, public transport's actually not that bad in Perth. For the most part, it's okay. But yeah, like it's like I almost feel like we don't have that norm.
But public transport is literally on rails. Like if you think about it, like buses run on like predetermined routes, trains run on rails. You can't do
in Adelaide. They have their little German U-bus things that are like part bus, part tram that go on rails.
Pick one, guys. Like, just pick one. Pick the best of them. But you know what I mean? Like that is like literally like you're on a track. Like that is the opposite to some degree of like, you know, freedom and I kind of there is some like philosophical like underpinning there that probably needs to be explored in a different pod maybe, but like I think we've maybe just got to tap into that same philosophy when it comes to like building companies. Like a lot of the best people that have started companies have done so out of that like desire to be free.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the time is you just don't think you can work for anyone else, or you don't want to.
Or don't want to. Yeah. There's something there.
All right, so that means that we're probably targeting the right people.
I think so.
For this sort of thing, which is good. I do, as I said, like I had one of those moments yesterday when we were talking. I was like, is this like just a big failing of me? Like when you say to me like, because like we don't need to get into all the prices and details here, but we named the price, and I think he was a bit like intake of breath. Yeah. And it's like, but ideally I want it to be cheap. There's no like knock on Gav, and I think I responded by saying like, but the problem is that it is like it's basically free if you do everything yourself. Yeah. And so what you're actually asking for is that you need me to do it for you, which we can, but like it's actually quite expensive for me to like not focus on anything else, and then that's the focus. That's why it has. This is why the only way I can do it like that. So could I spend like 6 months making it really easy for somebody to set up for free? Yeah, but
what's the incentive?
Like at what cost to myself? Like
what do you get in return?
How much do I need to invest in making it really free for other people to do stuff that I've done? Like if that's that's the sort of area where I sometimes think, all right, maybe I should look for like an open source grant or something like that, and then that could be focused on making it easier to bring more people into that sort of infrastructure. But like it's not something that we can just pay for at the moment.
But it's also not a tool for the masses. So when you were saying like,
exactly.
what's the 50...
So how easy do you make it?
Yeah, that's it. The incentive isn't there. That is the investment. You know, like the $50 equivalent. Like, why would you bother? Like, why would anyone bother? Because Claude Code can just like take your unique feature and embed it, and they've already got audience. So like that means you have to compete on scale if you're pricing at like $50.
Shout out to Mark's friend of the show. Like I think Maple is a good consumer product at that level. It's like if you want the privacy, you want some control in the ownership over stuff, use Maple.
Yeah. Yes, agreed.
It strikes a reasonable balance there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean that's yeah.
And then if you want that, but you want a lot more of the other stuff, then pay and get yourself a wingman set up and get going, and then run Maple.
Again,
So,
like I think it ultimately comes down to leverage.
Yeah.
It's like how much of a lever do you want from the investment? And like, you know, sometimes we like talk about it as being this like junior employee.
Yeah.
And I think the word junior does it a disservice. It's priced like a junior employee. It's not capable like a junior employee. It's like it can do way more, but it's also accretive like a young person because it's learning and it's doing more and it's hungry. But the framing, I think, is, you know, it's maybe priced at a junior employee level, but it's like just having
employees.
Yeah, that are very capable, that will work around the clock, that will follow your instructions. You will need to check in on them because that's what you do with employees.
I mean, I could sort of see it like saying, like, it's like having a bunch of, like, new grads. Because you kind of have to train it what to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, the grads, like, I've had some excellent experiences with, like, hiring grads. Usually it was, like, somebody that was an Accenture grad, and they're in year, like, 3 or 4 of their career. And their first couple of years was spent just being absolutely fucked on in some, like, industry that they were just sent to, that they had like no background in, and they just had to like deal with it. And these people come out and they're just like amazing, and they high agency and they do stuff, and then they instantly leave Accenture because like they got nothing from Accenture apart from like a massive problem that they kind of solved themselves. And then they don't keep up with them. Like they can't pay those people well enough or give them enough stuff to do. It doesn't fit the culture. So they end up like the higher ups in Accenture, I think, is generally the worst, but like that level was really good for hiring. And I feel like you've got the opportunity here with your agents to like just build as many of those people as you want for like a couple of grand a month. Like, and you just have, but you have to like put the work in to develop those systems. But like once you give these agents these guardrails and systems and processes for how the work gets done, then you get better work out. You get better work out of something if it has this guardrail and it's understood and it's, you know, scoped correctly and small enough for it to do. But then once it does it, it doesn't get bored and leave you and go to another company.
That's
you
true.
know, it doesn't take that. There's no other non-loyalty available to there. So it's worth training them. But they're like this like really capable employee that you do need to train. But they're also like, and I sort of agree with the junior thing, is like, look, what they're very good at is going and looking up stuff on the internet. So often for a senior, you're kind of employing, you know, one reason somebody would be a senior is they have a lot of knowledge in their head. I think that's just like pointless in a way. Like it's like you almost don't want that in a business. It's a risk. It's just a thing, you know, it's a key man risk. We have names for those people. Like it's not good. You need to get the information out, and it needs to be written down. It needs to be in your business intelligence or whatever. Your business intelligence layer. It's in like, you should be fucking written down. That was always the point. It's been the point for 20 years. It's been the point for probably 100 years. I just wasn't around at that point. You were always supposed to fucking write stuff down that you were doing. It's easier to write stuff down. That's the difference. It's easier for other people to read it. But yeah, like. So you've got that component, and then there's the experiences component. You can very quickly just build the experience by trying a lot of things and then assessing what worked and what didn't. You can, you know, like personally, like as a kid, I used to just listen to a lot of like podcasts and they read autobiographies of people that did well, and you go, all right, well, they did stuff like that. I guess I don't need to make that specific mistake now. I can go and make a different mistake. And you move fast enough, you do enough stuff, you'll make your mistakes quickly. They ideally should be new mistakes. And you're not gaining anything by being like one of 400,000 people that have all made the same mistake. And then it's written down and we actually don't need to make the mistake. We could just not make that mistake. That's not necessarily good experience. Like getting more humble is good. But again, so maybe that's why you hire for the experiences. They're a bit more humble. But that comes with being very reserved.
It's nice for framing as well because it humanizes the the onboarding part of this as well, because and this also came out of the conversation with Gav yesterday. It's like a lot of companies are still delegating this stuff to IT. It's like, no, that's a technology problem, go and figure it out. But it's like, well, actually, if you do need to train these agents, you're training it on stuff that you know. And often IT is completely disconnected from the work that actually gets done inside the business. Like, they couldn't really tell you how work gets done. So they're, in many ways, the complete wrong person to be embedding this stuff in the business, because they're just not going to know how to make it valuable in a way that another human would be valuable. So I think that is also like a good way to frame it. But yeah, ultimately it is about like investment and leverage for these companies.
There's a big trend 15, 20 years ago in mining and general resources around the merger of IT and OT. And OT was operational technology, which is just IT but done by the people that are actually doing the operation. So it was generally all the useful stuff. And then IT would generally just look after like the finance system or something like that. But yeah, you look at it and you go, yeah, this is all just tech.
Yeah.
It's just that here we've got a set of people that don't talk to anybody that actually makes the money for the business. And then there's a bunch of people over there that do talk to those people and respond to it. And what you don't like about those people is that they're kind of cowboyish and respond to everything very quickly. We don't like these people because they're too structured and too removed from everything. They don't actually help.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just more of a cultural shift problem that you've got. It's like, these guys are all tech people. They understand all the stuff. They just don't do any of it.
Yeah.
It's like, in a lot of situations, they have my mobile number is a good enough like disaster recovery service. Like, you'd be surprised the trillions of dollars of GDP that's been created on the back of like some guy's mobile number, and everybody just kind of ignoring the fact that he turned up drunk to somewhere he wasn't supposed to be drunk, like to fix something.
Yeah.
Oh dear. But well, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, and Apple investing in on-prem model stuff.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we've also
We've
covered that
touched it.
one. We've hit everything on the list. But that was
As
interesting.
promised.
So
Yeah.
I only saw like one video from it. It was so fucking dry
Yeah.
and like hard to get excited about. But effectively, they've created like a layer that can run on Macs.
Yeah.
I think it's called MDX or something like that. It's a protocol there, but it effectively makes it easier for the LLMs to talk directly to the chips. But given the like pure amount, like, because the M5 chips and the GPUs and that stuff are good, and so it's interesting that like you've got a $1 trillion company pushing into like the narrative of private and owned data inside your stuff, and they're showing it off with like Open Code and Pi running over the top of these local models that are all running on Llama. So this is good news.
Yeah.
Good news, good development, the sort of thing that you might expect to come out, but we hadn't seen properly yet. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would personally, I don't know if I would buy more Macs.
Price point
this
for that,
sort
do
of
they
thing.
say?
I mean, it's not really a price point. It's just the machines that you have. So
Okay.
if you went and bought a Mac Studio,
Oh, right, I see.
like
yeah.
depending on how well spec'd it was, you can run these. Like I could run this on my Mac Mini. I'm sure if I update, then I can get access now. Just I'm limited
gotcha.
by the amount of memory that I've got on that machine. What I can physically do inside the GPUs, and there's certain models, but those models will run better. And I think there's some new stuff in the newer Macs that does, like, it can select. They have a lot of these, like, we call them like neural accelerators, and there's certain like matrix multiplications that are better inside these chips than GPUs. So it's easier to offload that stuff invisibly to the LLM that you're running.
Yeah.
So the model doesn't need to know that it's using those for the calculations. It just happens in the background under the hood. So stuff like that's pretty good. So I think it's good, and I think like this is again like Mark's friend of the pod. Maple used to work at Apple, and he's made the comment a few times around like, you know, they've got an insane number of just GPUs out in the world that are all there and could be doing stuff. And if they focus on that, like it's a fleet of stuff, or if you can have like mesh calculations going across like, you know, your company's fleet of MacBooks, that's actually a pretty good GPU cluster there. So
Yeah, definitely.
as I said, like we're still in this phase. We're in this like bubble phase of just
Yeah.
shitting in the pool before we get out, and then let the public in. And like it feels like we haven't addressed any of these proper questions yet around like how do we make it efficient, how do we make it faster. Like to me, like the biggest, like if you really did want to blow the competition out of the water, you would come up with a way of having like a similar level of intelligence to this that's 10 10 times quicker in
Yeah.
speed. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's where that Grok company, not Elon's Grok, the other one, the Q. I used to love their stuff because I do a lot of like chained, like intent analysis on stuff, and I would do it all in that Grok with the Q with Llama free or something like that. But it would run like super quick. In the time that I would have sent like one query to OpenAI, I'd done like 10 with this thing, and for fractions of a penny. And I was like, all right, that's brilliant. Let's more of that, please. But it's just not in the zeitgeist at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think it'll come. I don't know. I feel like maybe that was one of my. I mean, go back, everybody, listeners, listen to the prediction show at the start of the year. I think I feel like I might have made that prediction, and I'm feeling like maybe I'm too early on that one. Maybe that's post IPO sort of stuff when they get serious and start solving problems.
Yeah.
Instead of raising money.
It is an interesting one about Apple, though, just generally, right? Because I think the criticism has been that they've been like pretty hands-off AI in general, and or late to it. I just wonder if that's like by design to some degree, especially if you look at like the hype wave financially.
Maybe.
I don't know. Sometimes you can ascribe too much credit to.
I think at the same time they're just not the company they were.
That's true. So I think that's definitely true.
I think they've made a bunch of missteps, and they don't know how to lead these things in the way that, like, at least say, Steve Jobs seems to have had his problems, but he was fairly good at picking a trend and then being ahead of it.
Yeah.
So I think they suffer from that at the moment, which makes sense. Like, it's like they're in their Bulmer years for Microsoft analogy.
But equally, if you do get the market shakeout, you'd still expect Apple to be around.
They'll be in the same position because they're not part of it.
Exactly. Well, I think that you get broader market contagion in those big sell-offs, but you still that's a durable business for the most part. Yep. And so you're probably fine.
Unfortunately, although I'm probably going to be buying more framework computers.
Yeah.
I think.
Fair.
I need to go that direction of just trying to remove myself from Apple.
Yeah.
As much as I can. But, all right.
On that note,
that is the good stuff.